All right, hey everybody, thank you so much for coming out today. Again, my name is Mike Murray. I'm the astronomer and the manager for the Planetarium. I've been here almost 9 years, and we have had so much fun with this place because we've had a chance to kind of improve it, evolve it, and I don't mean just in terms of the technology, which yes, we've replaced, but also in terms of creating a lot more diverse programming. And so I want to give you a little bit of a tidbit, some samples of what it is that we do here. Obviously the building is dedicated to more than just the planetarium, but this is the centerpiece. We are one of the 3 downtown campuses for Delta College, and so there are classrooms here. There's the multi-purpose room, Space Explorers Hall, there's a computer lab, and so yes, we still have Delta classes here, but the planetarium is dedicated almost entirely to outreach into the community for public education and also to the schools. And so I'm going to give you a little rundown, very visually of course. Obviously being in the planetarium, we've got to have our visuals. And I'm going to give you some samples of some of the shows and the different types of programming that we do here. So first of all, I'm going to come around beside you and talk with you mostly from over here because there's going to be a lot of visuals, and I want to start with a look at some of the visuals of what classic planetariums used to be like. Anybody remember going into a planetarium and seeing these machines in the middle of the room? Yeah, the star projector or the star machine. Planetarium started almost exactly 100 years ago. In fact, October 23rd was the centennial of the very first ever projection planetarium. And these star projectors were optical mechanical machines that would project your stars and the moon and the planets, even the sun, constellations. And that's how planetariums got their start, was as a star theater. And yet you notice our theater no longer has one of those. In fact, a lot of planetariums don't have the optical machine anymore because, yes, they've gone digital, like just about everything else. Now, I know you hear digital this, digital that everywhere, but it really has revolutionized planetariums because it's turned us into immersive theaters that can move you around in 3 dimensions. And that means now we can present the universe the way it was meant to be experienced, which is in all dimensions, in all colors, full realistic, photorealistic, if you will, and being able to take you anywhere. And that includes other places in science, nature, not just astronomy. So to give you an example, I always have this demonstration I love to do at the beginning of every program, because instead of telling you, let me show you. Let's imagine for a minute that we could be in a conventional flat screen theater, you know, like a Hollywood theater. You're just going to see a movie. So let me fade the lights down. You'll see the big wide screen come up in the front, and maybe we're going to look at a comet or something. All right, so that feels familiar, right? Just like you would experience a cinematic program. But in here, that's like a window way off in the distance. And with the dome, we can expand the frame and cover the entire screen. Every time I see that, I think, yeah, baby. A little better, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I think of as kind of like the collective virtual reality experience. And I like being in open air because you don't have to wear those goggles. You don't even need the 3D glasses. We're already immersed in the 3D environment. And by the way, we're using real data most of the time. This is real information gathered from the Rosetta spacecraft that was in orbit around this comet about 9 years ago. So we have the ability to recreate all kinds of environments. Yeah, if we want to go out into deep space, see the stars in the Milky Way, we can still be a star theater. We can even still give you a tour of the night sky and where the constellations are, how to find things with your binoculars or telescopes. But here's what I love about the new technology. Things are not just photorealistic, they are realistic. We can take actual photography and go to places that you would never be able to attend in many cases. We can go anywhere in the world, maybe to the top of Mauna Kea in Hawaii, see what those telescopes see and cover the dome with it. Or maybe go into lunar orbit, see what the astronauts felt like in low lunar orbit. And the other thing that's really awesome about digital is we can take images that were released, say from the Hubble Space Telescope, which is still operating, by the way, or new images from the James Webb Space Telescope, the new one, the new big giant infrared observatory. So yes, we have great photographic capabilities, but we do a lot with animation and art and music and culture. We even bring in live performances from the Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra. So there is much that we can accomplish in this theater. And like I mentioned, we can do digital animation and simulations. So let's imagine for a minute that instead of looking at just an artist rendering of a black hole, what happens if we could actually recreate flying into one? All right, well, now that I've killed everyone, or sucked us into another dimension, let's be positive. Let's talk a little bit about how the planetarium got here in the first place. The facility opened in 1997, but it's actually quite a historic site. And I always love to talk a little bit about this whenever I do presentations about the planetarium and where it's located. As you all know, this is a very historic part of downtown Bay City. And if we were to grab one of the old maps, this was a nice map created in 1867 of the downtown area, and we can actually zoom in to our location and see what was here. And I'm going to highlight that building right there. No, it's not the Winona Hotel. Well before the Winona was the Fraser House, built about 1866, 1867. And it was actually the first really notable luxury hotel. There it is on the right side. And by the way, see those rail car tracks? I took this just a couple weeks ago when they were tearing off the top of the pavement. There they are. So those rail tracks are still there. Unfortunately, in December 23rd, 1906, the Fraser House burned. Bummer. It was a beautiful place, but what was incredible was how fast the next new hotel went up. It was only not even about a full year later, I think it was late 1907, the Winona Hotel opened. This is from 1920, you can probably tell by the cars, and the park. And of course, at that time it was also a very well-known hotel known across Michigan. A lot of famous people stayed here. And so the Winona was also a very important landmark. And of course, by the 1950s, it had become more of a apartment building. And unfortunately, in 1977, as many of us remember, or I wasn't here, but I heard a lot from people, the December 1977 fire that took down the Winona. And notice it also went down in the month of December. And so I like to joke around that every December we get a little nervous around here. So yeah, a very historic site. It actually remained as more of a gravel parking lot for almost 20 years. So how did the planetarium come about? Well, in the late 70s, there was a physics professor at Delta College named Marty Goodson, and he ran the little planetarium, the little star theater that was over on campus. And it's still there, by the way, just used as a little star laboratory. Well, he and then President Don Carlyon talked about, well, what would it take to maybe improve the planetarium there? And Don immediately said, well, why would we just improve this one? Why don't we build a big one, a bigger one, and a better one? And so that's when the idea started spreading. And then Michigan Representative Bob Traxler got involved, who was on a very influential position in Congress, and was able to work with NASA to secure funding, especially because the the Challenger accident had just happened in 1986, and only a few years after that, there was a big push to try to really expand public education and especially secondary education. And so monies became available, not as at first they thought about building a Challenger Center here, which is funded by a private company and supported by NASA, but they decided, no, let's go for NASA funding so that we can build, again, a campus center here, as well as a world-class planetarium. The money was secured in 1993, and ground was broken, I think late 93, early 94. And of course, as if you were around at the time, a lot of people saw the designs going up and started asking, what in the heck is that? What is that thing? It looks like an upside down Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket. Yeah, I know, it's had all kinds of affectionate names over the years. But it was an award-winning design by a Detroit architect. And it won, I think, several awards. And if we look at the design, it's actually quite deliberate. The big cone shape is actually meant to emulate a rocket nozzle. And the orangish and reddish colors represent hydrogen, because that is the most common element in the universe, the most common element in the sun. And then you notice how everything has curves involved. You've got the constellations on the floor, you've got curves for the planetary orbits on the floor, even round windows, because almost all objects in the universe of any particular meaningful size are round. And black walls for the deep of space. So what do we do here? Of course, you could think of a planetarium, it always has shows, but as I mentioned, the building serves multiple purposes. We have a wide variety of different shows for the families, for kids, but also for the general public and for adults. It's not all just for kids. I oftentimes hear from people who say, oh yeah, I went there, last time I was there was 20 years ago when I was a school. Well, we have a massive addition of new programs available, including music and visual arts, and special events like the fireworks fundraiser, and meetings that can take place in Space Explorers Hall, which I'll show you when we're done here, and we'll also take a quick tour of the rooftop observation deck that you see there. So I'll take you up there. When we talk about main feature astronomy shows, what are we talking about now? Well, now programs can be produced because of that, the digital modeling and animation. You know, think of like a miniature Pixar or DreamWorks studio. You can now create custom programs like that for the dome. And a lot of professional filmmakers are getting into it. It's not just planetarium people. And I'll admit, a lot of us older fogies who were working in planetariums going back 30, 40, 50 years, we were always dealing with slide projectors. So it brought in a whole new cadre of talent. You know, we've had, I worked at the Salt Lake City for 13 years, creating, designing, producing, and distributing shows all over the world. And I had to pull in a completely new set of skills. People with modeling and animation and compositing, just as though we were creating our own little movie. But we also do create our own programs, live presentations and guest speakers to talk on a huge number of different topics, because there's always something new happening, and we can bring in and cover hot topics and current events with these custom-made shows. Like the Northern Lights has been really popular because the sun is getting more active. Anybody heard about the aurora getting more active? Yeah, well, every time we gave that show, it sold out, and it still does. So we're always tapping into what the community is interested in, and we also tap into what kinds of current events are going on. Like there was a meteorite that fell over Michigan just a few years ago, and we brought in a speaker from Michigan State to talk about it. In fact, we're going to bring him back this spring. So we have these special events. Well, let me give you a sample of what it's like to actually be under our realistic nighttime sky using our modern digital system. So if we could put up the night sky for tonight, soon after sunset, we can give you an accurate representation of what things will look like, where the planets are. We've got the planet Saturn in the south, and that really bright star that's rising in the east, it's not a star, it's the planet Jupiter. So we can do tours, of course, but remember, the planetarium is a three-dimensional space simulator. So what if we wanted to take a trip, like over here to the little cluster called the Pleiades? Well, here we go. Warp factor 8. Scotty. Everything that you saw in our night sky is contained inside of a database that allows us to fly realistically through the stars of the Milky Way galaxy and see other objects, like a star cluster. This is a beautiful cluster called the Pleiades, and you can actually see it in the night sky to the unaided eye, over there low in the east near Jupiter. But what's great is we can actually take three-dimensional trips to those objects and see what they're really like. I also mentioned how we will bring in special programs. Every winter or spring, we bring a small consort from the Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra to perform. Last time they were here, they did some selections from Gustav Holst's The Planets. So imagine that, instead of recorded music, imagine them performing live down in the front of the theater as a small chamber orchestra. And it's really beautiful. The acoustics in here are just wonderful for that. Every year we do that, it sells out. We also have other programs that explore the connection between music and art. We have brought in some work from fractal artists. If you've ever heard of mathematical fractals, they can be created in 3 dimensions and rendered for the dome. We have brought in our own programs or put together a collection of clips like these. Just again, maybe just as a relax under the dome kind of an experience. We're going to be bringing that back. But we also have other shows that are self-contained single artist performances, usually recorded, but not always. During the Hell's Half Mile Film and Music Festival, we always have a program about full dome filmmaking, and we'll show a number of clips from full dome film festivals from all over the world. And this is one called Samskara from the UK. trippy, isn't it? What I love about, again, the new technology we have projectors that now render an amazing palette of colors and color depth that we never had before. And when we look and find some really creative pieces from these film festivals, and by the way, these are all film festivals that are dedicated to just the dome. They are exploding all over the world. I've been to a few of them, and it's amazing some of the creative talent that's coming. And yes, there's a lot of storytelling, a lot of different kinds of subjects that are created there, but this is where you'll also find some of the best programs that are being created for the dome today. So let me give you a few samples of what I meant by a feature program. I've got some clips, some trailers to show you for some different types of shows. One that we did during the 50th anniversary of the Apollo program. We ran several times, and this is a trailer for a show called Capcom Go.
To mankind, or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
But how are we going to get the moon? We can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings. Houston, your go for separation.
How's that for dramatic? Yeah, so there is a great way of being able to tell gripping stories in an immersive way with these shows. We can also take programs that have been filmed for giant screen, like IMAX, and they have oftentimes been converted and play well in the dome, like one of our most popular shows called Mysteries of the Great Lakes. That allows us to cover some more local flair.
There are countless mysteries hidden in these Great Lakes. On a cliff face, shamans painted spirits believed to hold special powers. Thousands of shipwrecks bear witness to the unforgiving nature of these inland seas. A falls is reduced to a trickle for 3,000 years by forces that can change the face of the earth. Islands lost in time become a refuge, and strange things are happening here that no one expected. Just as a symbol of power is making a comeback, unexplained disappearances hint at a deeper problem. Prehistoric giants undertake an epic journey, and one man has galvanized an entire community to save them. These are just some of the mysteries, and the answers may hold the secret to our own fate.
If you're on roll, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. Farther below Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send. The iron boats go as the mariners long go, with the gales of November remembered.
Mysteries of the Great Lakes, a Science North production.
As you can see, we can cover a lot of different topics through either animation or actual film. We do have, looks like my microphone died. All right, I'll speak up. We do have other programs. Yes, we do still the classic like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon shows and things like that. But we also bring in other artists, as I was mentioning. And I want to finish up with a sample from a show that we did last year called Mesmerica. And the sequel is running now. It's called Beautifica. It runs on Saturday nights, and in December it'll run on Friday and Saturday nights. And it's a really great experience in music and digital art, but also really kind of for layback, just kind of a beautiful feeling, just that kind of fits the positive vibe of the holiday. So this is a very short clip from Mesmerica and the kind of content that you would see in Beautifica. Really beautiful program. Some of the best digital artists from all around the world contributed to that. And we're planning on more of that kind of content coming in the winter time as well. We have just a few minutes before I take you out to tour the rest of the building, but does anybody have any questions before we exit the theater?
What was the opening date? You told us when they started construction here. The opening date.
Oh, the opening date was in February of 1997. Yeah. We had astronauts here. It was a big to-do. And the facility has been upgraded twice since then. And it's great because it gives us the tools to do some really great and engaging things. It's not just about the technology, but what we're doing with it. Because we have some pretty good talent here, and we're able to tap into a lot of incredible talent out in the planetarium world because it's a lot more compatible than it ever used to be. Back in the days of slide and special effects projectors, almost everybody was kind of doing their own thing because there wasn't a lot of compatibility. But now we can tap into some really high-end professional productions thanks to that connection in the same kind of systems. Does that help a little bit?
It's nice.
Yeah, and there are calendars, schedules, but you can always go to our website and social media pages to see. We will be posting our schedule for January through April probably within the next 3 weeks. So if you go onto the website, you'll see what's playing through December, and soon we'll publish what's coming up in the winter. All right, well, if you're ready for the rest of the tour, I'm actually going to have you guys exit over here on this side of the theater because we're getting ready for the public show that's starting at 2 o'clock and the doors that you came in through. So I will meet you out in the lobby so we can continue our little tour just outside the planetarium. Was that a good representation of... Yeah, in fact, that's what's happening with a lot of modern planetariums now. They're really diversifying in the kinds of content and presentations that they can do. And we like to always make sure that there's a live presence. So even in our recorded shows, there's always live content at the end of every one to go into what's currently going on with hot topics and current events. So it's never just a movie in the round. There's always some kind of live interactive part to it. Okay? So here we are in the lobby. As you notice, the curvature, and again, the lines are there in order to help represent like planetary orbits. And I believe that they're not even perfect circles, they're even slightly elliptical. Just to, and even the air vents are round. I mean, they really paid attention to a lot of the different details. And if you've ever come in and gotten turned around, yeah, that they wanted to make sure that there weren't square walls, that nothing was perfectly, right angled. And so the whole idea, again, just to kind of give it a sense of space, a sense of vastness, if you will. And so we do have themes that will change, not just the flags, but even some of our exhibits will change. During the summertime, we will usually put up some display walls here in the lobby so we can showcase photographic exhibitions or space art. So with the James Webb Space Telescope being so hot in the news and all the new releases coming from that observatory, we'll probably be putting together an exhibit on that at some point. There already are some displays in that little corridor in the back there. You see where it says Space Place, NASA Space Place? One of the requirements for having this place built by NASA, it was all built by NASA funds, by the way, is we have an area that we can always update with content that comes from NASA. Okay. So at the time that it was built, it was $8.75 million to do the facility. I shudder to think what it would cost to build it again now. You've seen what costs are like, right? But everything about the construction of the building was paid for with that NASA grant. The operation of the planetarium is done by Delta College. So NASA doesn't supply any money to us at all in terms of the operation, but we do get information resources and some programming from NASA. Like the View Space exhibit here, that's a live, well, almost live feed from the Space Science Telescope Institute in Baltimore. It gets updated every night. And so new snippets, new pictures, anything new that's released from some of the space observatories will show up on that. But we also put it into the dome as well. Okay. Stars on the floor, if you've seen those before, that was a way of raising money for the planetarium's endowment. The endowment is what helps, of course, in terms of our operations and acquiring new programs and exhibits. And as you can see, there's still plenty of stars available, so if you want one, there are some little brochures, and there are different costs depending on what size star you want. Actually, the largest ones have already been taken. And so But yeah, if you have any questions about that, we've got some little brochures. Let me walk you all over to the other end of the hallway here so I can show you Space Explorers Hall. Okay? So Space Explorers Hall is so named because it represents all of the countries that have participated in space exploration, either as an astronaut or a mission specialist. And so these would not include like the space tourists that have been going up. These are like people that have been trained by a company to go up, or by a company or a space agency to actually participate in space exploration. Now, we actually have, I think it's 6 more countries that need to be added, but we're going to be doing a little redesign because, as you can see, we're running out of space on the wall. So we're going to kind of redesign that so that we can add a lot more, because it's been increasing. There's at least 6 countries, maybe more, that need to be added to the list. But what we love about this space is that it serves a lot of different purposes. Yes, there can be classes in here, but usually we host all kinds of different groups, maybe civic groups or private events or trainings and workshops. So there's clubs, many different organizations that can rent the space.
Blood drives here.
Yeah, blood drive has been going on in here as well. There have even been some exhibits. We had a nice exhibit during the Tall Ship celebration of 2016 where the Saginaw River Marine Historical Association actually filled the entire place with boats and all kinds of great historical artifacts and drawings and blueprints. So we will sometimes even set it up as exhibit space. Guest speakers will sometimes be in here, but many times we run them in the Planetarium Theater itself. But this is a really fun space, and we've brought in and done a number of great special events. Any questions? And so it is available. We have not been able to do a lot with rentals in recent years because of COVID, and just like everybody else, we lost some staff, but we are slowly going to be building back up. We just this week brought back, I should say, a full-time center coordinator. Yay! Thank you very much. Yeah, we're a very small staff. I think altogether, full-time and part-time, there's like 6 of us or 7. And so, yeah, just like a lot of places, we're all wearing lots of hats and doing just a little bit of everything. So one day I might be doing a show, and the next minute I might be plunging the toilet. So, you know, we do what we got to do, right? All right, so next, I want to lead you all over to the tower that, you know, the entrance doors over there at the tower from the parking lot. We're going to go back in that direction because that's where we're going to go up to the roof. You can either take the elevator, if those of you feel like getting a little exercise, you can take the stairs, but it's equivalent to 4 stories. So we can get quite a few in the elevator at once, but it will take more than one trip. So we're going to go up to the observation deck and I will give you a tour. So believe it or not, we can actually fit about 130 people up here. And we do have some special events from time to time. Usually we'll roll telescopes out here to observe. And it's usually just the brightest objects. Obviously we're being in downtown, so we're not going to be looking at faint galaxies. But if we've got like a lunar eclipse or a moon watching night or planets, then we often have viewing sessions. In fact, the next one's coming up next Friday, the 17th. It's called Jupiter-Saturn night. We just showed that in the dome, right? So they're going to be in nice positions for us to observe. And of course, we know it's Michigan, so if it's cloudy, we'll still do a free planetarium show next Friday night at 7. But in addition to observing, we will also have events like our fireworks fundraiser. So we sell tickets, we give you a special show, we bring up snacks and drinks and gifts, and then we seat you all up here to get to see the fireworks right up here. Nice front seat view. And that always sells out. It's usually on that Saturday, you know, the big one, the big night for the fireworks. And tickets, I think, were $65, and we sell out every year. They usually go on sale in May. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you join us. Also, We do bring people up whenever we have an opportunity. People come by to visit and ask all the time. And one of my office professionals, his name is Tim Murray, no relation. We joke around because he'll say that he's my father and I'll say, no, I'm his father. We're actually only 2 months apart. But he's a part of the Saginaw River Historical Museum or Association, and so he comes up and loves to give historic tours of downtown, and we'll all do that to one extent or another. But for example, Sam, what's the name of that building? Do you remember?
The Tanner Building.
The Tanner Building. See the date on it? 1867. Built almost exactly the same time, just after the Fraser House. And it had the distinction, I think, of being the very first quote-unquote fireproof building that was built in Bay City. And there were fires, like in between the Tanner Building and Timothy Cigars. There used to be something in there that burned down once, and it fortunately did not take the Tanner Building with it. But for a little bit of historical context, and of course, plenty of other historic spots. I love being able to look down Center Avenue from up here. It's a really great view. And some of the renovation and restoration that's going on, it's great to see that. You also get a nice view of the city government building. Tim loves to tell the story of how when the city government building was being built, and Sam, you can correct me if I get any of this wrong, but there was a very young, I want to say pretty much a child that was working up on the tower and fell and died. And that was the beginning of some of the child labor laws. It was that event. It kind of inspired some of the child labor laws that came around that said, you know, maybe you shouldn't be putting certain age children up there to work in dangerous jobs like that. But and then of course you can get a good view of the county government building as well. What I love is over here on this side, the view of Winona Park and the river. We actually do weddings in the Planetarium Theater. A lot of people will, well, over the years we've had a lot of people who have come in and had their ceremony done, and then many times they'll come either up here or outside to get some of their pictures done.
Okay.
Nice view of Water Street, aka Hell's Half Mile. So this area, I think it was starting right here at Center and going down Water Street. Not too many of the original buildings are left, but that was the area known as Hell's Half Mile in the late 1800s, which I know Sam does a really great job of describing and touring. So. But I love the view. In fact, whenever there's concerts going on down in the park, yeah, this is a great place to be. We've been trying to figure out other ways that we can use the deck. So, you know, maybe we'll have little get-togethers or something up here, but we do want to expand the use of the deck in terms of special events. And even historical panels. Sam?
Tim and I have talked.
Yes, you have. So it's a great view. You also get a nice view of you see the sailboat that's painted down there in the intersection of Water Street and Center. A lot of people don't realize that it's there, but it's sure a great view of it when you look down from above. And I have to point that out because that was a project for the Leadership Bay County group of 2016, and that was my class. That was our project. Okay. Any questions? You're not cold, are you? Hey, I'm originally from Colorado and Montana. This is balmy for me.
Do they really get to see many stars from here?
You know, when the sky is clear and low humidity, yeah, I mean, it's not about seeing a lot of stars from this location, it's about some of the brighter objects. So the moon, the planets, some of the brighter star clusters and things like that, and events. So solar, lunar eclipses, things like that. That's what we'll use this site for. But if there's something like a meteor shower or the northern lights, and we want to set up an event, we won't set it up here. We'll go to like Port Crescent State Park or Bay City State Park, and we'll go remote and invite people to a darker site.
Because whenever I've gone out to see, I don't know, something in the sky, they say, look this way. What do I see? A cloud.
A cloud. Yep. Here we are, yeah, our location, unfortunately. And of course, Michigan's Murphy's laws is, it'll be clear the few nights before the event, clear right after the event, and cloudy and raining right on the day of the event. I've seen lots of memes for those, so if you want some, just give me yeah.
My son's in Aurora, and they had 10 inches of snow last Monday.
Where was he?
Aurora, just outside of Denver.
Oh, yes, Aurora, because there's an Aurora, Illinois, too. Yeah, I lived in Denver for quite a while. I know that part of...
The most unusual weather. I mean, it was really cold.
Yes.
4 days later, it was 66 degrees.
Yep. When I was living in Bozeman, Montana, we had 13 inches of snow on June 13th. And then 2 days later, it was 72 degrees. It all melted. In fact, one of the stories I heard, this was before I lived there, you can get snow in any month of the year in Montana, usually not in July, but one year, the 4th of July fireworks celebration had to be postponed because there was snow. And then the next day, again, it was really nice. But yeah, you can get freak snowstorms up there.
What's with the chalk thing in the intersection over here?
Oh, the boat?
No, it's right in the center of the traffic. The intersection.
Yeah, that's a sailboat.
It's a sailboat. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm visually impaired, and I.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the sailboat was designed and placed there by the Bay City County Leadership Group of 2016.
Is it just chalk and it left?
No, it's paint.
It's paint.
Yeah, in fact, it's meant to be a very durable paint. In fact, it's pretty amazing that it's held up this well over the last 7 years. It actually is due to be repainted. So, getting there. Alrighty. Anything else?
Is that the stand for the Christmas tree?
Yeah, that's the stand for it. They're going to be putting it, I think it's November 20th is the date I heard.
You open the observation deck so you can...
That's not a bad idea. We haven't done that before.
Yeah,
But I like that idea. Let's see what we can do. If not this year, then for sure next year. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be good.
Thank you for the idea. I did say I wanted to try to do more up here, right? All right. Hey, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you all coming out, taking the time to spend a little bit of time to see what we're doing here.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you very much.
And as always, if you have any ideas or suggestions, please do. We're here for you all. We want to create programs that you like.
Yeah.